Okay, so thank you all so much for joining us for the fourth and final session of our Beginner's Guide to Mindfulness Meditation. And today is my favorite one. We're going to be looking at the space of the mind. So let's start off with a quick recap. And today, a lot of our focus is actually going to be doing the practice of this. And I'll try and leave a good chunk of space at the end for any questions that you might have about this session, but also about establishing your practice in the future, moving forward. Yeah. So just to quickly review, mindfulness is the experience of the moment without judgment or without interpretation. So without judging if it's good or bad, without grasping or aversion, without interpreting with the narrative circuitry that goes on all the time in our head. Yeah. And when we're able to start experiencing the world without judgment or interpretation, the quality of our mind is described as blissful, clear knowing, luminous, and stillness and vividness of attention. And the purpose of the meditations that we're doing is using single-pointed concentration so that we can establish that clarity of stillness and vividness of the mind. And the purpose of this meditation, to break it down, is to train our awareness. We've been using our awareness to notice when our attention moves away from our object and to bring it back to center. At this stage, what we're going to start doing is we're going to be moving beyond just noticing it. We're actually going to start watching out for it. So watchfulness will become a close companion to awareness. So as you continue doing your meditation, just check in on your mind every 5 or 6 breaths or so, and just go, what is the state of my mind? Just watch out. Is it dull? Is it overexcited? Is my mind wandering? And then do what you need to do to bring it back into center. So for example, if your mind is dull, you need to wake it up. Yeah. Take a couple of deep breaths, bring in clarity, fix your posture, instead of slumbering, bring your neck up, straight spine. Think of something that is bright or inspiring. Could be gratitude, and then recenter. You're also finding that posture really, really helps. So if your mind is automatically dull, you might want to do a standing meditation or a walking meditation. If you've never done a walking meditation, I can highly recommend it. It's basically just concentrating on very slow steps and seeing how your muscles move and being very, very present of all your movements. On the other hand, if you're overexcited and your brain is agitated, this is where the real danger lies. This is where you end up getting shanghaied and find yourself suddenly coming to, and your brain has skipped a couple of steps ahead. And this is most noticeable on the out breath, when we're breathing out relaxation to calm down that monkey mind. When you do have monkey mind, the best antidote is to focus on your body. Allow your body to ground you from all of this cerebral activity in your head down into your body. Use your breath into your abdomen, yeah, to really just focus you down there. So at this stage, we're looking to train watchfulness to alert awareness of the first appearance of a distraction, or also of what the Buddhists call a mental affliction, because this is the basis of living an ethical life for them. They start to notice the programs that they're running. They start to notice when anger is arising, fear is arising, judgment, self-doubt, all of these anxieties. Yeah, so they start to notice the programs that they're running. And by noticing, they can let go. They cannot identify, they cannot grasp. So the whole thing is about loving awareness, compassionate awareness. So the second purpose of this meditation is to make our mind serviceable at will, right? To turn off the conceptual mind, to turn off all the narratives and the stories. I am this, I am that, the world is this way. Instead of talking about it, we directly experience it, non-conceptually. And we do this by increasing our awareness of what our mind attends to. And we start looking at what emotions that we attach when our mind attends to something. And this is what this meditation session today is really going to be about. Because once we start to notice how we attach to something or react to something, we can start to change those programs that we've been running subconsciously. First years of your life, you're running somebody else's program. You're just inputting data from the world around you. This is up, this is down, this is cup, all of these things, you know, about relationships, about our relationships to the world around us, about our identity to ourselves. These are all programs. And when we're older and our brain develops and we start to get discernment and our prefrontal cortex starts operating, then we're able to start noticing things and to start rewiring our own brain. There's this wonderful comment, which is our brain creates our mind. We can actually leverage the neuroplasticity of our mind to reprogram ourselves. And the key foundation behind all of this is that our mind determines our concepts of the world. We input data as colors and shapes. We look at it and we create meaning. That's not a hose pipe, that's a snake, right? Do we run screaming or do we just go, oh, that's fine? Our mind is constantly looking at creating judgments and categorizing. That's just the way that it's designed so that we can move fluidly through life without draining our brain. So our mind determines our concept of the world. If we're able to change our mind, we change our world. Because the way that we think has a direct impact on our neurology, it has a direct impact on how we think and how we feel. We start to notice that, we start to change the inputs, we change the way we feel, we change the way we experience the world. And the way we change the world is we change it through ourselves. So it all starts here on the mat. Yeah? Okay, so the foundation of everything is relaxation, right? We start off with our routine, a couple of deep breaths, and then we start to notice all of the senses around us. We bring it in close, focus on our object. We reinforce what the benefits of meditation are to you personally, and we use compassion, right? We start to notice whenever our mind wanders, and we use a reward to bring it back, because the mind will always wander. It's human nature. So instead of going, oh no, get back to center you, we reward that motion sensor for picking up our distraction or picking up that mental affliction, yeah, that anger, that judgment, that negative emotion. And instead of indulging it, instead of grasping to it, instead of creating further narrative, we just notice it. Anger is happening, judgment is happening, and then we just let it go, because we can pick it up and explore it at another time. And the purpose of this is so that we can start noticing when we go into the outside world and into the everyday, how we react to things. And we can start to make conscious choices around how we react. Start putting in those habits, start putting in those behaviors so that it becomes instinctual, second nature. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. So today we are going to look at Mahamudra, which is using the mind as the object of our meditation. And the fascinating thing about this is that science knows very, very little about the workings of the mind. In fact, nobody can really define what the mind is. We know what the brain is, but there is no hard evidence that can truly map the correlation between the body and the mind. There is no definition of consciousness, and there is a huge way to go in terms of science as to how it all works. A lot of the work that is happening now in neuroscience is working with teams of deep meditators, monks, both from Buddhism and Hinduism. The Dalai Lama is cooperating in America with a lot of neuroscientists to make sure that they are aligned so that they can work together to help develop, because they've been using introspective observation for thousands of years. They've journeyed into the mind and seen it firsthand, and they're able to slow it down and consciously observe it using very, very rational thought processes. The Buddhists are very, very logical. You know, their mind is like a sword. So today we become psychonauts. We look at our own mind, because man has been to space, man has charted the seas, but we know very little about what goes into our mind, or what happens within. We know very little about the states of our mind. So we're going to use our own introspective observation to go into what they call the substrate conscious, which is below the subconscious, and it's one stage above deep sleep. And that's where all the programming happens, and that's where everything arises from, that we can start to take notice. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is the parade of content that goes on through our consciousness. Okay, imagine you're on a beach, you're sitting there, you've got your cup of tea or coffee or water or whatever, you're nice and comfortable, and you're just watching everybody pass by. Yeah, you've got the man with the dog, you've got the girl with the dress, you've got the harried mum with the kids. You just watch them. There's no story around, oh my gosh, that poor mum, you know, I wonder if that child will ever stop tucking her arm, or isn't that a pretty dress, or, you know, oh, what a cute dog, or I miss my dog, or any of the stories. Yeah, we just watch. We just look and observe as this content goes past us. Okay, this is the same as what we're going to do with our thoughts. We're just going to watch them as they arise, as they abide, and as they dissolve. And we're not going to attach anything to them. We're just going to watch their objective appearance without grasping or wishing it to stay or go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to watch our subjective experience. Okay, we're going to look at our own response to it. Are we judging it as positive? Are we judging it as negative? Or is it neutral? Those are the three. And our own response is going to be the object of our meditation today. Yeah. So we're going to focus on the parade of thoughts that pass through our heads. We're going to notice our response to it. And we're going to do so without grasping, without indulging, without storytelling. We're just going to notice what's happening within our own body as these thoughts come up, as these thoughts arise, abide, and dissolve. Any questions? Okay. So I'm going to lead us into the practice with the routine. We're going to focus on the breath to start with to get us there. But as we start focusing on the mind, we're going to surrender control of the breath. We're actually going to surrender control of the mind, or surrender any control of grasping to concepts at all. Yeah? All you need to do is just watch. Watch the space of your mind. Notice the thoughts arise, abide, and dissolve, and watch them. Just parade across your consciousness, noting your response, noting your emotional response without judgment, without attachment. Okay? And when we start this exercise, we punctuate it just to move from the phase of breath and stillness into introspection of our thoughts, observation of our thoughts, by saying, this is the space of the mind. Thoughts arise, abide, and dissolve. And then we go into it. And if you notice your thoughts wandering, do exactly the same thing as we're used to. Just notice it, congratulate yourself, come back in. Notice also if your mind is dull or overexcited, and do maybe what you need to do just to come back to that space of stillness and clarity. Yeah? Everyone ready? Brilliant. Okay. So if you'd like to shut your eyes, spine up straight, make sure that your neck is stacked directly on top of your back. Make sure that your sit bones are nice and heavy below you, and take a couple of deep breaths. And before we start, take a moment to really appreciate the time and space that you're giving yourself to be here today. And to be doing this meditation, remind yourself of the benefits that meditation offers to you. And then start calling your attention to the sounds around you. Start noticing any smells, any tastes. How are smells and tastes connected? Do you notice one more on the in-breath or on the out-breath? How does your tongue feel in your mouth? Does it feel heavy? Light? Start to notice the tactile sensations of your body, the parts of the body that come in contact with each other. Teeth on teeth, eyelid to eyelid, fabric against your skin. And we start to focus on the breath. If your mind is dull, use breath at the abdomen. If your mind is sharp, we'll choose an increasingly nuanced object. Use breath at the tip of your nose and feel the breath as it comes in and out of your body. Using every fifth breath or so to watch out for dullness or excitation and adjusting it. Using clarity on the in-breath and relaxation on the out-breath. And we move now into shifting our object of attention to the parade of content going through our consciousness. As we start to watch our thoughts as they arise, as they abide, and as they dissolve, without grasping or wishing for it to stay. And we watch how we respond to our thoughts, what emotions that may arise, and this becomes the object of our attention. So we start now by saying in our mind, this is the space of our mind. Thoughts arise, abide, and dissolve, and just observe. If you find your mind wandering, just reward it, bring it back, and start again with the mantra, this is the space of the mind. Thoughts arise, abide, and dissolve, and reset. Now I want you to start watching the gaps between the appearances. So slowly start to bring your awareness and your attention back into the room. Darren, are you awake? So if you want to unmute yourselves, I'd love to hear what that was like for you and what you noticed.
Well, I just noticed just how many random thoughts I have. Just so many things, and they're like and you pay attention, you're like, how did I get there, right? But that was one thing that I noticed. But also, it was almost like I felt like it was like waves or something like that, right? And I could feel almost sometimes it was getting dark and it was getting light around, and I don't know if it was a reaction to the thoughts that I was having or how my feelings, but it was funny because I felt like the sense of darkness and at lightness. But yeah, it was almost like a journey. I wasn't like progressively going deeper. It was like kind of like I was just kind of up and down. And I think that was just the thoughts that I had and probably my reactions to them, right? Which I tried to kind of observe and kind of move along the parade of thoughts. So yeah, it was interesting experience, but it was good kind of observing how I moved through that. So that was good.
Okay. So it's you ask a really good question. Where do these thoughts come from? And the waves is almost just watching them all arise and abide and dissolve. Yeah. And most of these just always happen in our brain without us even being aware of it. Completely
exactly.
Random.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything about judgments?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that at times I noticed my judgment and feeling going along with that thought. So I kind of was actively kind of pushing that away. I don't mean in a forceful way, but yeah, trying to say, no, it's just a thought, right? That is one reaction to it. It is what it is, right? So I was trying to, but that was something I had to really kind of practice, right? Yeah. But I did notice that. So I was trying to kind of, manage it, I guess.
and how sticky the thoughts are, right? As soon as you start to notice an emotion or a judgment, it's quite easy to indulge in it.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to kind of, that's definitely a skill to be practiced, right? Is to do that.
And what about the gaps in between? What did you notice about the gaps in between?
Well, I enjoyed them. Basically, I think I was like, oh, because I like almost that dark and light. I could feel the lightness in those times between when I kind of like, okay, these thoughts had moved along, and I was really just right there and thinking about and in that space. So yeah, and I don't necessarily think they necessarily there were more gaps. I think it just depended, but yeah, but that was like, I could really contrast, right, between when I was kind of, there's a thought that's popped up and I'm going to, see where that goes. And then when it's past, that space, that gap was really nice. So I really enjoyed that feeling and that kind of lightness that I felt.
Thank you. Thanks, Susie. Sophie, I got your message that your microphone isn't working. So I don't think we'll be able to hear you, but maybe you could nod. Did you enjoy that? You did? Okay. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to put it into the chat, or you can reach out to me afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to share? Maybe we go around. Shay, what about you?
Yeah, that was interesting. I had waves as well, periods of very active, and then periods, gaps that were bigger. And I also liked those gaps. I almost feel like I tried to create those in a sense because we have been watching our attention, being aware of our attention and trying to clear things out. I did catch myself trying to do that. And there was one train of thought that I had a lot of judgment about, I didn't like, but kind of got stuck in, and I kept trying to like dissolve it. I was actually thinking that word dissolve it, but it really probably persisted longer because I gave it so much attention trying to dissolve it. Totally random, out of the blue, people many years past. I have no idea where this train of thought came from, but there it was. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And then I caught myself thinking a few times, like, how long have we been doing this? Like, that was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it, there was a point, um, I'll say in the beginning, like it was going along. It was almost like the monkey mind sped up at it's maybe the first 5 minutes of it. And it was like I don't know, like a kid throwing a temper tantrum. Like it was doing everything it could to get its way. And then when it wasn't going to, it just kind of subsided. Um, and that was pretty neat too, that it was subsided. But I definitely had some discomfort in that period of like, is this going to continue? I was judging that as well. Like this is wrong meditation, but anyhow, I did enjoy it overall.
Well done, an amazing awareness. And I particularly like the insights that you have about the more you grasp to it and the more you judge it, the more persistent it is.
It definitely was on that train of thought.
Yeah. And the key is to just going, all right, I notice you. I see you. I hear you. And then just not indulging in it, not grasping, not trying to dissolve or control, just be aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shay.
Thanks.
What about you, Darren?
It's pretty noisy here with various things. So that was kind of the flow of the meditation once we got into it. So the waves were a combination of getting into meditation, finding or observing these thoughts that came through, mostly pretty random, and then coming back to this bird that you know, which is in the nest here in the tree, which is constantly off, tweeting, which wasn't annoying, but it was that, you know, there's the bird again, that sort of, hello, you're still there, and then sort of going back into it again. And I was surprised that there wasn't really anything important going through my head. You know, just really random stuff. The most, I guess, surprising thoughts that sort of stuck in there were just my brain suddenly went yellow plastic. That has nothing to do with anything. Where did that come from? And then another time, sheep shearing. which at the time seemed the most important thing in the world. And then I went, well, I don't know why. And then I sort of came back to the bird. Well, there you go.
Thanks for sharing, Darren. And within that, there was a judgment there as to what is and what is not important. I mean, who knows, sheep shearing might be the most important thing in the world, especially if you're the sheep, right? But it does go to show just how random our thoughts are all the time without us being aware of it. Yeah. Okay. Matthew?
Yeah, just realized that it was probably by far the longest session I ever did. I mean, after the fact. It's strange because probably like I said yesterday, I can't see, or there are not many real things popping up in my mind. I'm more in this space of like it's like there are clouds, or I'm drifting through colors, and things come at me, but they're not very specific. There were moments where there's this bubble in my belly that starts swelling, and I feel really happy, like wow, and then it goes away almost too quickly. It's probably because I want it to swell even further, and by focusing on it, it goes away. But that's probably something to, I don't know, to let go of, and then let it come more easily in the future. There were some really interesting thoughts that came, or visions, or images that came up. Like at some point there was someone literally cycling through the sky, and I've not been smoking this morning, but like in a Mary Poppins movie, like, all right, yeah, someone cycling through the sky, yeah, all right. Then all of a sudden, moments later, or I don't know how much later, I was all of a sudden in my old neighborhood where I grew up. I was like, yeah, fine, old neighborhood. So not many very specific things that are like images or situations or sheep shearing. No, that didn't come up either. But a very comfortable feeling of just giving my mind that space. The other thing that I noticed for some reason is it seems like what's happening, and then when I look into these evolving images and spaces that I'm in, it seems to happen most in front of my left eye, and I have no idea why that is. Just a observation. I don't know. Maybe with left and right brain, or I don't know what that is, but it's definitely on the left side of some reason that it all happens.
I could hazard a guess as to that. So if it's your left brain, it's your right brain at work. And the right brain is responsible mainly for visualization and creativity.
Right.
Left brain is logic, and that comes out of your right eye.
So yeah, that's definitely something. And but when I focused on it, I was like, that's not important. So I let go of it again. And yeah, it was a good session. Thank you.
Yeah. So I forgot to ask you and Darren and Shay too, what you noticed about the gaps. And what you experienced during the gaps. Matthew, was that where you felt the bubble in your stomach?
Yeah.
During the gaps?
And at times also the gaps where I literally, apart from these spaces, I don't see anything specific, and I'm fine with it. But that I would say that's, and yeah, there were these moments where this bubble started swelling, and I'm like, oh yeah, and that's, I think, also a gap where all of a sudden my focus goes away from this, whatever is happening, to the feeling that's swelling up in my belly.
Thank you, Darren.
The gap here was connecting back to the little bird in the tree.
Okay. Shay?
Right. Oh, sorry. I almost felt like paying attention to the gaps increased the thoughts. Like when I was looking for the gaps, then I don't. It could be just that I didn't notice them as much before. I was looking for the gaps, but for some reason it seemed to increase the chatter.
Thank you. So my experience with this meditation is that it's almost like, imagine your thoughts are cockroaches all over the floor. They're going everywhere. And as soon as you start watching, you start shining the light on it and they all scatter. So as soon as I start going, okay, I'm going to watch out for thoughts. I'm going to watch out for thoughts. There are no thoughts. They don't come. And it's completely quiet. So I have this really lovely long gap. And the whole idea about that stillness of your mind, when you stop the narrative, stop the present, stop the future, you're just into now, that's imbued with luminosity and clarity and that feeling of presence and bliss. I can feel that really, really strongly when I start to do this, because I have that silence, because I'm watching. My thoughts are like, well, screw you. I'm not going to give you a thought, you know. It just goes all quiet for a while. So I thought I'd just share that. Yeah. So I noticed that it's 8:30 now. I'm happy to stay on if anybody has any questions about mindfulness in general, about taking the practice forward. Then I'm happy to stay on. Please stay on with me. If not, I want to just thank you all so much for taking this journey with me, and also taking this journey with yourselves. I hope it continues. I think that, you know, I'm hoping that from today's session, you'll realize, wow, who needs Netflix? You know, when I've got my mind, there's some amazing stuff in there, from Shaun the Sheep to expansive feelings from within your stomach, and just really starting to watch and keeping the practice going. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
For the
you.
run.
Great.
Elsie.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
No, I'm good for now.
No?
How long were we in that meditation for?
About 20 minutes.
Ooh.
I was going with my gut there. I was thinking switch off, but then I thought no. I was looking at your postures and you were all fine. There was a lot of excitation going in there. Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, I could see that with the posture of the head. But yeah, you all seemed fine, so I kept on going, because this is such a rich content, you know, such a rich topic, that I thought I'd give you the space of your mind. Yeah. If there's any other meditations that you're interested in, or you'd like me to teach, please let me know. In the meantime, I would highly recommend this book. It looks backwards. It's called The Mind Illuminated, and it's by John Yates. It's a complete meditation guide integrating Buddhist wisdom and brain science. And it will take you through step by step all the various methods of training your mind into single pointed concentration and how to use it. Yeah, so that you can make your mind pliable and switch off conceptual thought at will, so that you can change your mind to change your world. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay.
Happy travels, psychonauts.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Have a great
Take
day.
care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.